Hello and welcome to the Mysticast, where you join Jack Stafford and Debra Littleboy, members of the Aetherius Society, the cosmic religion for the Aquarian Age, as we break down the barriers between religion, science, physics, metaphysics, all of which are really only aspects of the self-same quest for truth. Please note this is an independent program, not produced or fact-checked by the Aetherius Society. Today, our guest is Ryder Lee. Hello, Ryder.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Looking
It's
forward to
great.
the fascinating conversation. I know a little bit about George King. I actually covered him in my first episode of UFO Doomsday Cults. And I had some good things to say about him because he was a little different than a lot of the other groups and some could say, religions or cults. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's great. Oh, I didn't realize you covered him because I think I wrote to you originally because we had Rex Bear on the show and it was a great conversation. I was researching him and I watched just happened to come across his interview with you. Then I fell into your channel, which is really interesting. It's called Raised by Giants. And you also did a lot of interesting interviews. But you also come from is that a semi-skeptical background? I mean, you do remote viewing, but you are skeptical. Is that the right way to describe it?
Well, really, what started was I just wanted to get to the root of a lot of these thoughts, ideas, and belief systems, and beliefs in UFOs and extraterrestrials. And really, when you track all this stuff back, it goes to a bunch of nonsense, made up fairy tales about space, and and also myths and disinformation directly from the government. So that's where I would say is skeptical. I like to call it an alternative view to the alternative community.
Mhm.
That's what I like to call it. So,
That's a good
yeah,
good way.
I don't personally do remote viewing, but I've had a lot of the remote viewers that were officially part of the Stargate, DIA, Army Intelligence, ran remote viewing program in '79. It started, well, '78, and then ran until '95, and then it was shut down by the CIA. I've had a lot of them on my show,
Mm.
so I know that spiritual abilities are real. That you can remote view, and people have certain abilities to see things. I'm just skeptical of the community as a whole. People talking about things that don't really make any sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
There's
that's
some
kind of
weird ones.
where.
I saw some of your videos, people they get into sex very quickly and things like that, and some crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's really plagued with a lot of mental illness, drugs, and sex. So,
Yeah.
I'm trying to just I'm just trying to bring a different kind of perspective to the community. Not only the truth of community, but the spiritual community and the conspiracy community and all that, and kind of ground people in reality.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. King, I mean, he's been accused of everything, over the years, I'm sure, but, because he came from in the 1950s to say you're, the oldest international UFO organization and to say you're channeling people from other planets, even back, even today you get a strange look, but back then, I mean, imagine what it was like, and, I mean, it is a doomsday. We do believe that, the next master is coming, we do believe there is an end of times, but we pray for it to be as far away as possible, and we don't know when it's coming, but, yeah, well, there is a next master who's supposed to come, and then will go to another world for another experience, those who aren't ready, so it is a doomsday cult in that respect, but yeah, we pray for it to be put off.
Well, that's the interesting thing about George King and a lot of these other, let's say, cults, is they all have the same kind of motif, right? A natural disaster is coming, something is going to happen, the earth is going to be transformed, it's going to be turned into a new age of existence, that the adherents to the cult are going to be raptured up in some sort of UFO and transformed into a new being, and that's a very common theme through a
But why do
lot
you
of
think that is
the
then?
study. Well, when you look at it, the a lot of this stuff came from Guy and Edna Ballard here from the cult of I Am in the early 30s. And I put a lot of research into this cult because it's really important to understand. Which the cult was also an offshoot of other movements and ideologies of the time period, included Edgar Casey, Elena Blavatsky, and others, which then just created many more offshoots and inspirations for many other groups and organizations after. But according to this group's teaching, the cult of I Am, which is the original Ascended Masters teachings, are believed to be individuals who have left the reincarnation cycle of re-embodiment. The I Am cult calls itself a Christian organization because, if you're not talking about Christianity and you haven't reinterpreted the Bible and changed it just a little bit, then are you really running a a cult, right? Because Jesus is considered an important ascended master, right? So this this is a patriotic cult because Ascended Master Saint Germain is believed to have inspired and guided, according to this cult of I Am, of course, right? USA, the United States Declaration of Independence and Constitution, and Guy's information came to him directly from Saint Germain. Now, you can see where all of the people after the 30s have also channeled Saint Germain and these other ascended masters. And you have to think, well, if something came before all of these people, then what are the chances that other people were copying off of what came before? Now, that's just a uh,
Well, it was Madame Blavatsky
something
as
that
well.
I've
The Theosophy, there was also all about ascended masters, and that was before that, the I Am, wasn't it?
exactly, but that's my point. The guy and Edna Ballard also ripped off Elena Blavatsky as well, and they also incorporated a bunch of other things about Mount Shasta and Telos. That there's an ancient race of civilization inside of Mount Shasta in California, and Edna Ballard, she worked at an occult bookstore, right? And called the Philosopher's Nook, and wrote and edited a newsletter called The American Occultist, and developed this theory called the diamond self, which was the idea that we're all connected and that we're all God, we're all one, which is later parodied by many in the community as the biggest being the law of one material, also known as the raw material, which came out several decades later in 1981. So Edna was writing her occult newsletter while Guy Ballard was being investigated for fraud for selling stocks for mines that he knew wasn't absolutely anything in them, and was indicted in Chicago in 1927, 1929, sorry, but then fled the state and went to California. And this was the beginning of the Great Depression and all of the law of attraction stuff, which was going on in California, and positive thought, and that you could just think your way out of poverty, and your mental state is key, which I do agree with a lot of that, but not when you fool people with misguided nonsense. You have to have action behind your thought process. You just can't sit back and be like, oh, the ascended masters have got me, Saint Germain's got me, Jesus has got me, and that gives you the excuse not to do anything or better your life, which has also been parodied through the generations for extraterrestrials as well. I mean, how many times have we heard people just sit back, just do nothing? The Palladians, the Galactic Federation, the 33 Confederation of Planets are here, and they're going to save everybody. It gives people an excuse not to actually work toward anything and uh, create anything in their life, which all of the theories and mythology of Mount Shasta actually came from a book called A Dweller of Two Planets by Frederick Spencer Oliver, which was published in 1905, and where Frederick Spencer Oliver claimed that a being from Atlantis called Telos telepathically communicated with him and helped him write the book through automatic writing, including such things as anti gravity, powered aircraft, submarines, televisions, wireless phones, water generators, air conditioners, high speed railroads, and describes the Telos. His final incarnation in 19th century America was he was an Atlantean, and his karma played itself out in that incarnation as a physical incarnation of a gentleman I think named Walter Pearson, I believe, which was a gold miner, and he traveled to Venus in a light body while his physical body remained at a temple inside of Mount Shasta.
It's
And
interesting, actually, Ryder. Let me just sort of jump in before I forget what I want to talk to you about, because I'm trying to. Because you're saying a lot of stuff, and my inner nodder is going. So what you've done such an incredible job of piecing together bits.
Very impressive.
The thing that really resonated with me was because I too have been researching for a long, long time to find truth, and done a lot of U-turns and spent a lot of money going down places that just turned out to be tinsel and fairies. So when I found the society, the thing that really got it for me, well, there were several things, but the thing that ties in with what you're saying is Dr. King said that you have to get dirty. We need boots on the ground, and you've got to sort yourself out. Nobody's going to come and do it for you, because what would you learn? You've got to do it yourself. And then he gave us some tools to actually raise our vibrations. He told us how our bodies work. He explained that we were this physical body was actually a radiator and a transmitter, which had all sort of got rusted up. Debra's words, not his. We've forgotten how to use it. And so we've been brainwashed by people that did know how to do it, because they wanted to have the power and wanted us to remain dummies. But we allowed that to happen. So we now have a big job to do, which is why the society prays, and praying is for us. We connect with the energies, we bring them through, we send them out to raise the vibrations, to get our body conditioned to send out the vibrations, so that more people start to get it, to wake up and know they've got to roll their sleeves up, act as one, and put the whole thing right. So I just wanted to come in with that I wouldn't say that we're a cult at all, and not for any other reason, but I understand that cults have like conditions, like you can't come in unless you've got to do this otherwise, and this is the right way and that's the wrong way. Whereas the Aetherius Society is, this is the truth. It's the truth whether you like it or not. Truth is truth. Suck it and see. And if you don't like it, that's okay. We're still be here. We're doing what we're doing. Everybody's welcome. If you're a Buddhist, you're a Hindu, you're a whatever you want to be, you're a Jedi Knight, come in, because actually the truth's the truth. Just be the best Buddhist, Christian, Jedi Knight you can, and help us raise the vibrations. Or don't, so that's that boots on the ground is really what sold it to me. Yeah.
Oh, and I liked George King's whole, thought and process behind that. It was a motivation thing. It wasn't so much sit back and just do nothing and wait for, whatever to happen, an event to happen, and then you react. No, it's more react now. Now, to your point of that this is truth, I don't believe that anything is truth. What you believe might be a version of truth, but it's not the one and only truth. I mean, there's so many different ideologies and so many different belief systems that it's almost practically impossible to actually label any one thing as truth. Now, it can be truth to you based on your experience of life, but there is no ultimate truth
Well, let me just jump
to
in.
me personally.
Let me jump in, because truth has two poles, we're told by the masters. So that something can be someone's like, take for example God. You can say there's one God, or there's many gods, like the Hindus worship many gods and many beings, and maybe the Christians worship. They say there is one God, but then there is the absolute. There is everything in existence. So you're part of God. I'm part of God. The microphone's part of God. God is everything manifested, and much more than that. But there are many more gods. There are the sun is a god, the greatest living being in our concept manifestation. Jesus is a being from another world. He's a god to us. The divas of God, Neptune is the god of the oceans. Saint Germain is a god to us because he's an ascended master. He's way above us. But Saint Germain said that he knows beings as far evolved above him as he is evolved above an ant. So there's all these beings evolving back to God because God involved itself. And we're all, you're a god to your son. I'm a god to my son. So there's all these, it's definitions. So you pray to the divas, send them energy. We worship them. We worship the sun. The earth is the greatest being we've ever physically touched. It's a living, breathing being, the god Terra, which will one day evolve into a sun, into a galaxy. The galaxy is a living being which we send our energy and we worship because we live inside it, and it gives itself so that we can, and we eventually merge all together. Consciousness merges back to form greater and greater beings, back to God eventually. That's in the teachings of the society. So that's an example of truth being, there's many truths because there's many levels of consciousness.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
yeah,
in
I
a
mean,
dual system here, aren't we?
yeah, I mean, everything runs on the balance of what people perceive to be good and evil. Your experiences in your life is what cultivates your truth. So whatever you've been through here is what you've created in your reality and is what you believe based off of your experiences. I've had a different experience in my life. I was raised completely different than both of you. Therefore, I am going to have a different truth within my being based off of my experiences. You're going to have a different truth. You're going to have a different truth. Everyone listening to this is going to have a different truth because they've experienced different things in their life. I think that's what makes things so special here. And the problem is that people are trying to blanket everybody with the exact same thing. You know, they're trying to be like, oh, well, this is what's going on. God is the number one true God. Saint Germain is the number one ascended master. Jesus is the number one ascended master. And we never get anywhere because they're
No,
trying
it's
to
a bit
push
hard.
their ideologies and their belief systems on everyone to try and get them to believe in it. And that's what creates the problem. I think that the way that our reality works here is a egregoric system, and I've talked about egregores several times on my show and on other people's shows. And if you guys are familiar with what an egregore is, it's an occult term that whatever you believe, whatever you put your energy into, whatever you put your attention into, then creates it and manifests it in your reality. So that's how I think everything works. I think that that's the way Jesus works. I think that's the way Buddha works. I think that's how all the religions work. That's how the ascended masters work. That's how extraterrestrials work, is us giving them our energy, our attention, and then that gives them the ability to exist in our reality, whether that is a physical manifestation or a spiritual manifestation.
But those beings all
Well,
exist independently. I mean, the ascended masters are collaborating with the UFOs, with the alien beings, and the Buddha is on Shambhala. I mean, they're all truth. So.
But the fact
Well,
is that we are, if we're told that if we have single-minded focus, and me for one, I'm a long way off of single-minded anything, but so if you have laser focus, the more pointed, the more focused you can be on a given target, if you want, then the more successful you will be. And that makes perfect sense to me, Ryder, because if you're paying your attention to two different counter thoughts, then you don't actually go anywhere. because it's like Peter, Paul. But if you're actually looking to go somewhere and you've got that is the one thing that you're looking for. So let's say I was going for ascension. I'm going for ascension. So everything that goes in that and everything I do in my life is with that one purpose in mind. I'm going to get there quicker than Jack. That maybe it's like looking to, I don't know, be the best footballer in the world, and look after his family. So he's not going to be. He's not going to be the best footballer in the world or the best family man because he split his energy.
But can't they all
So
be true, Ryder? I mean, can't they all be?
They are all true, but to what extent? It's like a hierarchy, as I see it. And the more, if you are single-minded, focused on the highest possible, then you can get to the highest possible a lot quicker than somebody that is single-minded on a lesser and easier goal, or somebody that is scattered in their goals. Like, you know, maybe if you're talking about spiritual things, I have a little dip in that pond of I don't know, I'm going to be a pagan witch on a Monday and I'm going to be the best Christian priest or on a Tuesday. No, you've got to, whatever you focus on, you're going to manifest. And
Yeah,
the
isn't
more
that a good way to do it then? I mean, like, because if the teachings are so good, like, doesn't that help, Ryder? I mean,
Well, if everyone believed what George King said and what he wrote about, then would that not be a single-minded focus? Yeah, I think that what makes us special here and what makes us unique and the earth and its inhabitants important is because we have the ability to do all that stuff. We have the ability to wake up in the morning and be a priest if we want to, and then the next day be a witch, or the next day be whatever we want to be. Right? That's what I think makes us special. And this one-sided look and outlook on reality has been what has really held us back. I mean, look at Christianity and the enormous uh, atrocities that has been committed in the name of God and Jesus, you know, and
Inquisition.
look at all of the different kinds of religions that has committed murderous and horrendous acts in the name of God, you know. So I think that is actually important, and what makes us special is that we have the ability to change our mind. We have the ability to do something different and take a different stance and a different outlook on certain topics and certain ideas and certain belief systems. I think that that's really important.
Yeah, Master Aetherius channeled through Dr. King. If you want to be the best Christian you can be the best Buddhist, be the best Buddhist you can be. I mean, we're not saying follow Dr. King, you know, in that respect. You know, be the best, be in service to others. I mean, there's many ways to serve, you know, without.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do whatever it is that you want to do, but then condemning others for the way that they believe or their thought process. And I'm not saying that you guys are, but I'm just speaking in general terms
Mm.
here. For, you know, condemning and bashing and attacking someone that has a different outlook on reality based on their experiences of their life, that's the wrong way to go about it. You know, we should just let everybody believe whatever it is that they want to believe. But
Mm.
that also gives me the right to believe whatever it is that I want to believe.
There was a transmission I
Sure.
saw the other day, said the masters said, "Don't pray for us, please. Don't pray for your enemy. That's who we want you to pray for. Is for your enemy."
Yeah, send the energy so that we can raise the lot, because we are only all connected on one. What's the point of fighting? Can I come right off of topic here, Ryder? Your yantra to your left-hand side why do you actually study that, or is it just for because it looks pretty?
What now?
Your yantra, so your, which side would it be? On your left-hand side, the yantra on the wall that I'm looking at.
Oh, the symbol?
Yeah,
Oh,
I see
yeah,
that. I'm only seeing half of it, but it looks like the tuning fork to me, a mandala of the yantra.
yeah, I think that is I think it's a representation of the tree of life as well.
Uh-huh.
Or Metatron's cube. It's something similar to that.
Yeah.
No, I just had it up in my house for a really long time, for like 2 or 3 years, and then I moved my studio and my setup upstairs, and I thought it would be nice to put it on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful colors. Yeah, and really powerful. If it is the yantra that I'm thinking, then it really is quite powerful, because you've got the sort of wisdom triangles interposed on each other, which is sacred geometry really retuning. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. Sorry, Jack.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's just interesting whenever I'm, going back and doing this whole series on all this stuff, because I think that it's really important to realize where a lot of this stuff comes from. And if it comes from frauds, then that means that it's fraudulent information, right? And many of these UFO cults, like I was mentioning earlier, talk about almost the exact same thing. Like Rael from the Raelian cult in 1947, he claimed that he was the last prophet of 39, and that he was the 40th and final prophet, and that in 2035, the extraterrestrials called the Elohim are going to land on Earth and share their advanced technology, and that him and his followers need to create an embassy for these Elohim, a landing pad, and if not, they aren't going to come. And he talked about how they would, the Elohim came down and picked them up and took them up in his spacecraft and took them to their planet, where they had sex robots to have him have sex with. And then he then created this, and the Elohim told him that the way that they create these robots and how they live forever and achieve immortality is through cloning. And then he actually created this cloning company in Canada called Clonaid. And they claimed to have cloned a baby in 2002, and they named her Eve. And it's just incredible researching and seeing all these different. I mean, and then you have the Heaven's Gate cult, which everyone is very familiar with Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles, known as T and Doe. We discovered, well, through my research, that they went around the United States before they started their cult in 1974, and visited all these spiritual centers, visited gurus, New Age groups, in order to figure out how to structure their belief systems and their theology later in the cult. And the central belief of the group was the followers could transform themselves into immortal extraterrestrial beings and would ascend into heaven and be picked up by UFO ships and taken to the next level, or the next evolutionary level above human, which later they switched their beliefs when Bonnie Nettles was diagnosed with brain cancer in 1974 and then died in 1975. And she didn't leave in an intergalactic spaceship to the next level. Marshall Applewhite then started making changes to the doctrine to explain why she didn't ascend in an extraterrestrial spaceship physically. He switched it up and turned it into consciousness, and that the members of the cult were just in a vehicle and a container, and that the only way that you can get into the next level, evolutionary level above human, is by shedding your human container, and you have to be androgynous, give up all worldly possessions. And if you want to know who the beings are from the next level and how to identify them, you'll know by how well your life is going. The beings in the next level hate this reality and would never want you to do well here. So if you're receiving good fortune from God, that's not really God. That's the Luciferians. that are impersonating God. And we all know what happened with the Heaven's Gate cult. They all committed mass ritual suicide. And they also claim to be the two witnesses from the book of Revelation and the reincarnation of Jesus and Mother Mary. But they weren't the only ones to claim to be the reincarnation of Jesus and Mother Mary. And by the amount of people that have claimed to be the reincarnation or lived past lives as Jesus and Mother Mary, we should all be saved by now. So the Aetherius Academy cult from 1954, which is in a very interesting time period because that's right around when George King was doing his stuff, and the Seekers UFO cult was making predictions about the end of the world disaster. The United States was going to be destroyed, and we were going to be raptured up by extraterrestrial ships in 1954. And when I think that was Christmas Eve, December 23rd of 1954, they were talking about how the United States was going to be destroyed by an earthquake followed by a hurricane, and was going to wipe out the United States, and the Great White Brotherhood was going to come and save everyone in the United States and
What year was that?
rapture them up. 1954.
1954, yeah. Okay.
But then there was a infiltration into the group by a psychologist named Leon Fetzinger that actually created the term cognitive dissonance for the cult to study their mental state and their belief systems whenever their predictions failed, which I thought was a very interesting thing, because a lot of people talk about cognitive dissonance now and they relate that to people that have no idea what's going on, the NPC people that people call that are just walking around and don't they're just doing their everyday things. People in the community use that term for them when the term was actually created while psychologically studying a UFO cult whenever their predictions failed. So the Aetherius Academy in 1954, with leaders Ernest and Ruth Norman, they claimed that they were the past life incarnation of Jesus and Mother Mary. And Ernest traveled to Mars physically and said Asians live underground on Mars, not extraterrestrials, but Chinese Asians. And that Mars was destroyed several thousand years ago, and they came to Earth, and that's how we get Asian people today. And the Asians went back to Mars, and they now live underground. Ernest, there's an anti-Semitic nature to a lot of these cults as well. So Ernest died, and James Spiegel took over the cult and predicted that a mass UFO landing from extraterrestrials would occur in 2001, which obviously didn't happen. But Spiegel already had his plan for it. There's always excuses for why things don't happen. And his excuse was that if they don't land and they don't come, then you weren't looking hard enough, right? Then you have the Love Is One cult that started in the mid 2000s, claimed that Amy Carlson was a divine 19 billion year old being who had birthed all of creation and was here to save humanity from the dark forces of the cabal, to raise your vibration so high that we ascend into the fifth dimension, and that only 144,000 people will make it into this 5D new earth, and the rest will be recycled into the sun. Amy also claimed that she had been reincarnated over 534 times, including the reincarnations of Joan of Arc, Marilyn Monroe, Cleopatra, Amelia Earhart, and of course, Jesus Christ. The group claimed that Amy was the queen of the lost continent of Lemuria, which that ties back to the I Am cult, living within Mount Shasta in California. Amy also stated that Donald Trump was her father in a past life, and has spoken to the deceased actor Robin Williams, and that Robin Williams was a part of the Galactic Federation of Light and would assist her in energetic healings for $88 through Zoom. See, a lot of these people are scam artists.
It's very impressive.
Just sort of with that, if they're charging you for it, then and it is as ridiculous as you've just made illustrated it to be, then it needs to be looked at.
But you should do like
I would like to throw my penny in the ring here, because we're told by Dr. King that Cleopatra, the entity called Cleopatra, was not very nice person, but very selfish, and actually had a lot of slaves. And when she reincarnated, she went down to a lower level, and then and was actually enslaved herself in one of the lower hells. But after a certain length of time, people have to come back to level 1 and start their journey again. So what they have, like an extraction process. I'm just putting a story, not what we're told as truth, just to put into your mix. So we're told that, and I haven't got the dates because the dates won't come to me now, but we're talking maybe in the 1960s, that it was her time to be released, to come back onto this level and to start putting right the wrongs that she's had. But she was actually trapped down there by mind, by a black magician, musician, no black musician, no.
Black magician.
Yeah, wrong, Debra, wrong. So she was trapped down there, so she had to be extracted. And it was quite a sort of a tricky maneuver to do that. And there was a lot of sort of fighting on the lower realms to actually release her back. So she, to have somebody of what we believe is, she didn't lead a good life. She had to go down and learn her lessons to come back again. Was not really in the same pattern of behaviour as our, what we understand as the Joan of Arc.
Yeah, the
So
metaphysics of it.
not a good woman. So it's strange that somebody would want to sort of cook them all up as being in the same evolutionary journey. I don't understand that really, unless, well, I don't understand that. It's
Well, my explanation for this, if these people aren't just straight up making this stuff up and fabricating to make themselves look important, which I think a lot of it is, but my personal belief is that can explain why a lot of these people claim to be the exact same incarnation, right? Many people over the years have claimed to be the reincarnation or lived a past life as Mother Mary. Many people have claimed to be the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. My explanation for that, again, if they're not 100% making it up, they're not fabricating their stories, they're not trying to put themselves on a pedestal to make them seem like that they have information that other people don't have in order to influence people, which again, I believe is 90% of it. But I think that whenever we die, our consciousness is fractured. It's fractured into many pieces. And that consciousness that we lived in that life then gets separated into many other physical beings in this 3D physical reality. And that's how you get certain individuals thinking that they had lived, they have some sort of past life memory of the same being. It's not that they lived that entire full life. It's that a little piece of that consciousness has been fractured off and spread about to many people on the earth. And they get these
Your own theory,
little,
though, or you read that one?
that's my own theory, yes.
well, that ties in with when the one of the dark ones has to be transmuted, and they're brought to level 1, and we're told that their entity has to be fractured, so that they can learn their lessons, and so there is that fracturing, so that they can't go back to their great powers used incorrectly. So we've got that tie in from the very, very powerful black resources. I'm trying not to say that word again because I'm going to say it wrong. So when they are transmuted, then they don't come back as the one entity. They come back as you've just said, as fragments of. And so, yeah,
I
I
think we only have a few minutes left, so I just really want to pin you down, Ryder, and say, what you've done a fantastic job of researching all these things, and you really, yeah, I mean, you've got to put all these things in your head, all these different dates and places. I mean, you should put it on like a map or something. And Dr. King, he told us to discern, so, and you discerned. You said that he was, one of the few people to promote love and selfless service, and working for other people. So, is that something you come across with many, or is it mostly about paying a subscription and
It's mostly about give us money, we need money, meet up, we'll just, make ourselves be so important. We're the only people that has this kind of information. We are the only people that you can go through. We're the only person on the planet that can contact the Elohim, like in the case of Rael from the Raelian cult. He claimed that he was the only person on the planet that was in contact with the angelic beings that created us, named the Elohim, and that anybody else that claimed to contact them are fake and frauds. Uh, Several of them do that. Van Tassel from the Ashtar Command cult also did that. He was the first person to supposedly channel Ashtar from the Galactic Command in 1953.
Scientology? Are
The
they the most famous, or
Scientology.
is that the most famous UFO cult?
I haven't
they're
really
not
gotten into
UFOs.
Scientology because Scientology is such a deep topic, and it would take me a really long time to decipher all of Scientology. So I haven't really looked into Scientology much. I know a little bit about it, but not enough to actually talk about it or create a video about it because it just runs so deep. But I was referring to the Ashtar Galactic Command with George Van Tassel. And later on, he decided that he was going to, well, he had been giving his information and his channelings to a partner of his that was publishing them in a magazine. And after a while, other people started channeling Ashtar.
Right, coincidentally, yeah.
Just, yeah, coincidentally, just like really everything kind of snowballs, and people, listen to someone, and then all of a sudden they take their information, or, they parody them without giving them credit. And the list goes on. We've seen examples of this in modern day times within the community as well, revolving the secret space program. So he told his partner, he was like, hey, listen, I'm the only one that can channel Ashtar. I'm the only person that is in direct communication with Ashtar. All these other people that are claiming to channel Ashtar, that are giving these predictions and these dates and all this stuff, are wrong. And then the Ashtar Galactic Command became this huge thing on the internet
I haven't heard of it, yeah.
the mid '90s, and it's
What do you
still
think of this secret space program then? And that I've heard keeps coming up, but I haven't studied it.
complete and utter nonsense,
Okay.
complete fabrication.
Okay.
It's all made up.
With Stephen
And
Greer and all those.
well,
Oh,
Stephen Greer talks about a different kind of. He's more of the extraterrestrial and meditating and contact extraterrestrials through his CE5 stuff. He doesn't really talk too much about a secret space program. But when it comes to the time traveling and the reverse age regression and fighting aliens in space for 20 years and being age regressed back to the very point that you were taken, being abducted by the CIA to be MK Ultra and like mind fractured, and then to fight aliens in space for 20 years is just complete and utter nonsense. It's a fabrication. It was made up by people. It's not
mhm.
real. And
The masters did tell us that imagination is man's only creative faculty.
that's what it really is. It's an imagination. It's something that people use to create some sort of presence on the internet and talk about fantastical stories that are no way, shape, or form even uh, anything to do with our current reality. Now, I think that the secret space program, super soldier stuff has been snowballed on purpose, and it's been put out there on purpose to actually cover up real operations that may actually in fact be happening on earth. Like
Makes
the a
sense.
lot of them talk about how, looking glass technology, that the government has a device that can see into the future, see into the past, see what events that are going to happen and what is not going to happen. And that really came from the secret space program and the super soldiers talking about it. Well, there's a real looking glass program that was ran by the Air Force in the early 50s that was to put a nuclear command post in space to be able to launch nukes from space. That's
Yeah.
really what you would want to cover up, right? It's
Yeah.
not these fantastical whistleblower mythology stories about fighting aliens in space for 20 years and then being age regressed to the very point that you were
Or
taken. You would
smoke and
you would
mirrors.
not want people to know what you're actually doing in space, especially if you have nuclear capabilities up there,
Yeah.
No,
which
no.
is a real fact. They do. It's a real operation, but you have to type in operation looking glass or looking glass operation to
Uh,
find it online,
very
right? So
dis-
they've kind of hid it under the looking glass name. See, it's what's been done is titles of real things have been changed just slightly in order to cover up the real operation. So if you didn't want someone looking in a certain direction, then you would just make something that is similar to the real thing become really popular. So then you just bury the real information.
I wondered if that's what the dark forces do with the Aetherius Society, is that that mouse I come across a bit crazy to you, but that could be,
Yeah, I mean, quite possibly. I mean, I found the Aetherius Society just researching online and ran across it, and hey, he was definitely different than a lot of the other groups and people that I've studied. And if you watched the UFO Doomsday Cults episode part one, I mostly had good things to say about him. That doesn't mean that I believe what he's
yeah.
saying, because there's
No.
been so many other beliefs. I mean, I could go on for another hour about
Yeah, no
all these
worries.
other people that I've covered, talking about almost identically the exact same thing. I mean, George Van Tassel, that I was talking about earlier with the Ashtar Command, almost verbatim said the exact same thing that George King from the Aetherius Society said. So it's there's a lot of stuff that's just been compiled all into one, people ripping off other individuals, not giving them credit, then interpreting their own information and then compounding their own experiences upon it, and then giving their own views of what's going on, and it muddies the waters of everything. I mean, the and it's been astounding going back and doing all this research, because no one knows where this terminology comes from. No one knows where these original thoughts and beliefs actually come from.
Yeah.
And when you go back and do the research, you realize that, oh well, this is what's being talked about in the community today. you know
You should do like a
like
family tree or something, or some
like
visual.
the whole twin flame thing that is really popular within the community today was started by the I Am cult in the 30s, but it wasn't called Twin Flame. It was called Twin Rays. It's like it's the exact same thing that's just been regurgitated and then changed just slightly for a new generation of people, and all the while that new generation of people have absolutely no idea where those original thoughts, ideas, and belief systems came from.
You could take like the violet flame practice. I mean, you could trace that down through Saint Germain, or maybe it's in the IM as well, but it's a real practice. I mean, if you do it, it really does work. So
That's exactly what they talked about too. Yeah, the violet flame was.
you tried it?
No, I haven't tried it. That's what the I am call talks about.
Yeah, maybe if
The
you try it,
the violet flame. Violet
yeah,
flame, twin rays. They had a few other things in there that have been regurgitated within the community as well. That I can't think of right off the top of my head, but like I said, I could go on for another hour of all this stuff. But really quickly before we end out, that heavens, not Heaven's Gate, the Love is One cult that I was talking about earlier. She ended up she was found dead in her house, wrapped in Christmas lights, with her eyes missing, and she had been dead for 2 weeks before the police found her in Crestone, Colorado, and she had died of excessive ingestion of colloidal silver and alcoholism and anorexia. And HBO just started a docu-series on this called the first episode just came out the other day, and a fellow YouTuber actually had the worked on it as well. So if people are interested in checking that out, it's on HBO right now. It's called Love is One. I think it's going to be a series of like 5 episodes, but the first one just dropped the other day, and I covered it in UFO Doomsday Cults Part 6. And there's a playlist of all of the episodes that I've done on my channel. You just go to my channel and hit playlist, and they'll have them all there in order if anyone is interested in
yeah,
checking
I've
those
seen
out. But
Raised by Giants is on YouTube. Yeah.
yes, sir. But yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you. Appreciate the conversation, and it shows that people can that we can all have different outlooks on different topics, right? And we don't have to, butt heads. We can have a civil and nice conversation. We don't have to, hate each other or attack each
No,
other in any way. We can just, communicate like everyone should be able to communicate that has different opinions and thoughts and ideas and belief systems. So thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you. And yeah, I could go on forever, but
no.
thank you.
Thank you very much, and just goes to open people's eyes. That, I mean, people can go into the search for truth, and get led down a rabbit hole by somebody charismatic, and it can go to very dark places. So people should discern. People should watch your videos and make sure they're on a path to light. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank
And if
you.
people are
Bless you.
interested, if people are interested in the Aetherius Society, they can go to aetherius.org. Thank you.